Ingredients to At Home with Holly. My name's Holly. I'm so glad that you're here. Today we have a few projects in the kitchen. The most important thing that I want to get to today is I want to can up some salsa because I have cilantro that's growing in the garden, and cilantro lasts like 2 minutes in the garden. And so I had a couple bunches of it, and I thought, well, I've got tomatoes, and normally what I do is I let them ripen in my window, on my windowsill. Like I pick them when they're just underripe because we have so many like bunnies and birds trying to eat them right now. So normally I pick them when they're blushing or like almost ripe, put them in my windowsill, and then I let them ripen there, and then I usually throw them in a freezer bag so that I can deal with them later, like in the winter or something, in the fall or winter. But since I actually had a couple really good bunches of cilantro growing, and I have a whole nother strip in my garden growing, so we'll be able to do this again. I figured I'd make a video on how to make salsa if you were actually going to score and peel the tomatoes and do all that stuff. I will tell you that normally what I do is I put them in the freezer bag, they freeze. When they thaw, the skin just slips right off. That is my preferred method, but I know a lot of people like to do them with them fresh, so we're just gonna do them that way today. So let's get started. I have a whole bunch of tomatoes over here. Ooh, look what we got today. We were running errands this morning, and I treated myself to a latte, which I don't do very often, so normally I make it at home. So behind me, we've got one pot of boiling water because we are gonna score the tomatoes, dip them in for like a minute or less. And the skin's gonna start to peel, and then we're gonna put them in this that has ice packs and ice and really cold water. So it's gonna be kind of like an assembly line. First we'll do that, and then we will add all the other ingredients. That actually, the peppers we prepped together, so we've got some frozen chopped jalapeno in the freezer. So let's get started. First things first, we are gonna score a lot of these tomatoes. So let me get everything set up that we need. Okay, I like to have a big one to put them all in and a little one to take them out, just because sometimes you need options, right? So what I do is I usually just take out, oh, by the way, I have this little bag here. I put all the tomato tops and the skins and all that stuff, and I just give them to the worms. You can just put them in the dehydrator, dry them out, and make tomato powder. I still have some from last year. It's, you know, I don't really use it that often, so I'm not going to. So what you're gonna do is make an X. So I just make an X and I fill up, ooh, that is boiling over. I make an X and I fill up the amount that are gonna go into the pot. So we'll just kind of get these going, and then I'll take you over and show you what it looks like when you plop them in. So most of these are pretty ripe. If they're not all the way ripe, you might have to use a knife to get like the little trouble spots off with the skins. But when they're super ripe, they just come right off. So you don't have to cut off the tops like I do. I just did. And then I put a little X at the bottom and get them ready to go in. Now, a lot of people use strictly one kind of tomato for their salsas or sauces or anything. I am an equal opportunist. I do like the paste tomatoes because there's less seeds. They're kind of made for making stuff, not fresh eating. I get it. But also all the other tomatoes have such a cool flavor. Like, I'm not someone, don't tell anyone, I'm not someone that like loves fresh tomatoes. Like, I don't enjoy tomato sandwiches, tomato pies. It's just not my jam. But if you cook them down and put them with basil, onion, garlic as a tomato sauce, I like it. I like bruschetta, so I like tomatoes and all that stuff on top of like crusty bread. I love pico, but by themselves, just as a snack, it's not like my favorite thing to do. But when you get all these different flavors from all the different types of tomatoes, some of them are more acidic, some of them are less acidic, some of them are more sweet. It just makes such an incredible combination. So for me, when I'm doing sauces or when I'm doing salsas or anything like that, that's getting heavy. I like to mix them all up. So that's what I grow. That's what I'm doing. Let's get the first load in. Okay, friends, so this is the setup that we've got going on. We have our simmering water over there, like a light boil, and we have our freezing cold water over here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our first batch of maters. Ooh, that one didn't want to go in the pot this time. We're gonna take our first batch of maters, plop them in, give them a second. Make sure that doesn't drop down. I'm gonna grab the other two that fell out and didn't try to get in the pot. And I will put them in now. And then I'm going to grab my little shorty one. And I'm going to, so some of these aren't all the way ripe and that's totally fine. They're still gonna do the job. So I'm going to smush them around for a minute. As you smush them, you'll kind of see, like, look, this guy, his skin's already starting to peel. It doesn't take long. We're not trying to cook the tomatoes. We're just trying to blanch them so that the skin, not even blanch really, just, well, I guess that's what they call it, I think. So we're just gonna do this till the skins loosen up, like that guy, and then put them in the ice bath. Your stove is gonna get water all over it. It's gonna be okay. And then you just get the next batch and you just keep doing it. All right, I'm gonna keep doing this till we get them all in the cold water one. And then we're gonna get our next batch. Hey guys, they have all been blanched. They are in the cool pot. So we are going to go ahead and get them skinned and then diced up. The recipe does call for, and I'll link this recipe below. I actually got this from my friend Ben. Bernadette is her name. Ben is for short. And she gave me this, and I have tried a lot of salsa recipes. And if I'm making fresh pico, this is not the recipe that I would use for that. But whenever I'm doing canning and I want it to taste like fresh pico, this is that recipe. And it's interesting because it's got a whole bunch of other ingredients in it that I would not put in fresh pico. Fresh pico, it just literally has garlic, onion, salt, lime, tomatoes, cilantro, and peppers for me. This has tomatoes, onions, green peppers, jalapenos, garlic, cumin, pepper, salt, sugar, vinegar, canned tomato sauce, and canned tomato paste. I'm telling you guys, I have tried a whole bunch of recipes, and this, the final product, when it's done and comes out of the can, is the closest you can get for shelf stable. Now, to taste fresh from the garden and not like overcooked and like, you know, the difference between like not fresh and fresh. This tastes just like the fresh stuff. It's my favorite. We go through a lot of it. Sometimes I do make pico and vacuum pack it, and I love that too, just as a fresh thing to like add on top of like tacos or something. But this is really good, really good. So I'm excited to make it with you guys. Okay, let's get these tomatoes processed. Okay guys, so this is one of those days where I was able to get a lot of stuff done in a short amount of time because I had no distractions. My child was having a day of fun, a girls' day of fun, with a close family friend. So I was able to have about 2 hours, and so I was able to clean a little bit and get this also done. Every year when I grow my tomatoes, I grow a lot of different kinds of tomatoes like we talked about in the beginning of the video. But my primary goal is always first to make sure I have a year's supply of salsa. Of this particular salsa, because we love Ben's salsa so much. And then once I have about somewhere between 40 to 50 pint jars of this salsa on the shelf, Then after I have all of my salsa for the year ready to go and secured, then I start moving on to things like pizza or pasta sauce, anything with tomatoes like roasted tomato vegetable soup. This year I want to try some new barbecue sauces and that kind of stuff. Actually, for the pizza and pasta sauce, I've made a couple recipes that were okay, and they worked, but they didn't taste exactly how I was looking for. So I did a little bit of research. We'll be canning some new recipes up together. So I'm excited to try those with you guys. But my first priority every single year is salsa, because I love the salsa so much, like I said. And then I move on to the other staples, like the sauces and the condiments and the soups and stuff. So on this day, I was super excited that we were able to get our first batch done. Now, I will say that I do, generally speaking, like I said earlier in the video, I grow most of my tomatoes and plop them when they're perfectly ripe into a bag and let them freeze. That way, when I'm able to make stuff over the winter, I'm able to just pull them out. They slip right out of their skins, really lovely, and I don't have to worry about harvesting and preserving at the same time. So normally I don't even make my salsa or my sauces or my soups. The majority of the time I don't even make them until the winter or fall when I'm done with the major harvests. But this is about a week before I'm leaving for vacation is when I'm making this video. And I wanted to start to get some things jarred up and some things canned up and ready to go on the shelf. So this day we're going to make this fresh salsa together. I think that part of the reason why I do that, the freezing of it when it first comes in and then the making all my products with it later, is because I don't always think it's enjoyable to have a full day of harvesting and living your life and working your job and hanging out with your kids and to have to commit to 8 hours of harvesting, preserving, and all that stuff. That sometimes can take the joy out of it. So number one, I like to do it because it spreads out the workload. I get to just enjoy the harvesting and the growing now and then do the preserving later. And then also sometimes in the middle of winter you kind of miss your garden. You kind of miss the abundance and the bounty that was coming in. So to be able to pull out a bag and use their homegrown produce to make something really fresh and lovely in the middle of fall and winter kind of keeps those blues away a little bit. Okay, so now we have everything chopped, and at this point, I was not paying attention and did not even turn my microphone on. So let me kind of guide you through what we got going on here. So we're going to be making a double batch today. So I go ahead and take all of our tomatoes that we've got drained, and I add them to the pot. We're going to add everything that goes into this recipe right into the same pot, and we're going to cook it. So I end up pulling a couple bags of last year's bell peppers that we had chopped and frozen and vacuum packed. They're still lovely and wonderful and perfect for this application. Then also I wanted to use up last year's diced homegrown onions as well. So I grabbed a couple bags of those out of the freezer and we're going to toss those in the pot and use them up first. Of course, we did dice up some jalapenos together. I think the last week or the week before. So I went ahead and added those to the pot as well. So all of that homegrown. Some chopped garlic as well that was in the freezer, still good from last year's harvest. I still haven't even braided or done anything with the garlic harvest that I cured from this year, so more to come on those. But so this bag is our chopped bell peppers from this year that I haven't vacuum packed yet. So first I added last year's, then I topped it off with this year's. I think I was telling you right there about how much I love those silicone reusable bags because I am obsessed with them. I'm fine with using plastic, but I do try to limit my use of single-use plastics as much as I can. Try to be as conscientious as I can about our planet. So that was last year's red diced onions. Perfect application for last year's onions since they're not going to be able to be used fresh. They won't hold the same crunch, and most of the time you cook them down anyways. So perfect to be able to cook these down for salsa. So adding those onions and bell peppers, and here are our jalapenos that we chopped up from the garden last week, adding those in as well. This recipe does also call for cumin and tomato paste and tomato sauce. So here's the garlic that I'm going to chop and get in there too. I love having the
tomato paste from Azure Standard and also the tomato sauce from Azure Standard on hand. I forgot to add it to my last month's order, the tomato sauce, so I did go ahead and pick up a couple of those organic tomato sauce cans from just the plain tomato sauce from Walmart. You'll see me add those in, but I really like having the jarred tomato paste from Azure Standard. It comes in the glass jars, and it's not always easy to find the ones that come in the glass jars, and I like that because you're able to use as much as you want, put the lid back on, and pop it in the fridge for the next time you want to use it. And I really find that convenient because I don't always need to use the whole jar. Here's me adding some cumin, and then we need to add some black pepper. So I have some fresh cracked black pepper. And then we're also going to need to add some salt. I used Redmond's real salt. You can use any kind of salt you want, just as long as it's non-iodized. And then we are also going to add in a little bit of sugar and some vinegar to this recipe, just to kind of balance it out and keep it safe for canning. And then, like I said, we're going to add in the tomato paste and the tomato sauce as well, just to round off the whole recipe. So like I said, these are the jarred cans of tomato paste from Azure Standard. I just love Azure Standard. I mean, to be able to get these things at the price, and it's just wonderful. But so for this recipe, like I said, you're going to be adding the tomato paste and also the tomato sauce. If I was making a fresh pico, I would leave these things out. I would add the seasonings, and I would add the tomatoes and the garlic and the peppers and the onions, but I would not add tomato paste or tomato sauce. But in this application, it's the perfect ingredients, the perfect balance to make sure that it tastes amazing as an end product. And I also just want to add in here that I don't always eat 100% organic, and I don't always grow everything that we eat from the garden. But when I can, I love knowing where my food comes from. I love doing the majority of the growing of the ingredients at home, mostly because it's something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy feeding my family these products. A lot of these things you can't get this quality from the store as what you buy from, as what you can grow at home or buy local. So I just really find joy in that, and probably that's why you're here watching this channel, because it's something that you're interested in and excited about as well. So I don't always eat organic, and I don't always grow everything from home, but when I can, I try to. Oh, this is our first look at all of the ingredients together in the pan. Oh my gosh, watching this back, I'm so excited to be able to eat this. So this is how chunky it starts out. You can leave it this chunky if you want to, or you can blend it up and make it a little more smoother, a little like kind of like restaurant style salsa. It's still going to taste the same as like a fresher pico, but you can grind it up if you want. While it's starting to come to a boil, I do take this time to pick up the kitchen. You guys know that I love to clean while I cook, so that at the end I am not completely drowning in dirty dishes. Does it always happen? No. But do I try? Yes. So not only are we going to get this kitchen cleaned up, but we are also going to get the canner prepared in just a minute. But first I want to get this kitchen picked up. I want to have my produce bags drying out. These are the green produce bags that help keep your produce fresh in the fridge for longer. So I do like to have those on hand, and those I just wash out by hand and dry upside down on the counter. So you'll see me filling my electric pressure canner. So this is my electric pressure canner, which also can be used as a water bath canner, and I can link it down below if it's something that you're interested in using. You'll see me use this a lot, a lot. But so for this recipe, we're going to select boiling water can, because we're going to be doing a water bath canning for this recipe. You could pressure can it if you wanted to, but today we're just going to be doing water bath. So we're going to select the 10 minutes, and then it's going to tell us to insert jars, which I already have. And so this is going to warm up the jars for us. Sterilize. You don't have to sterilize jars anymore, says the USDA, as long as you're going to be pressure canning or water bath canning for 10 minutes or more. So we're just getting those jars in there to warm up, because we're going to be putting hot salsa into the jars, which means the jars will need to be hot so that we don't have any thermal shock and any breaking of jars for this recipe. So I'm going to blend this up a little bit. Sometimes I blend it up all the way, sometimes I don't blend it at all, but today I'm just going to be using my immersion blender to get this just a little bit less chunky, just because that's a personal preference. You can make it however you would like. If you don't want it to be blended up, You don't have to. Also, for this recipe, if you are not a cilantro person, I know you guys that people either love cilantro or you think it tastes like soap. I am someone that loves cilantro, can't get enough of it, love, love, love it. However, if it tastes like soap to you because you have that gene, number one, I'm sorry, my friend, because it is a delicious herb when it doesn't taste like soap. And number two, just leave it out. Just leave it out. The original recipe actually does not have it. It's something that I added in. So do you and what works best for your taste buds. But as a base recipe, it's pretty great. So we have it all blended to the consistency. Our canner has warmed the jars, and now it is telling us to go ahead and fill the jars. So what we're going to do is we are going to get the topper off of our, well, it's actually been boiling for 10 minutes, so it's the perfect time. It's supposed to boil for 10 minutes before it goes into the jars. So I'm going to get this little jar, what is this even called? A jar mesh lid? No, it can't be a jar. It has to be a pot mesh lid or something like that. So anyway, you get that off. And while I am getting the jars and everything ready, I'm going to get that off. I'm going to bring over my pot of hot, delicious, yummy salsa, and I'm going to start getting this jarred. So again, these are clean jars. They do not have to be sterilized, but I do run mine through the dishwasher before I'm going to do any canning session. So we are going to fill these to a 1/2 inch headspace because we're not pressure canning. If you are pressure canning, you, as a rule of thumb, want to leave about 1 inch headspace, but for water bath canning, follow your recipe as directed, but for this recipe, it is 1/2 inch headspace. So I'm going to get these filled. Again, we have a double batch today. So a single batch usually makes about 7.5 pints. So with this double batch, we should be right at about 15 pints exactly with, I think that should be, 15 pints exactly with a double batch of this recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and actually fill all the jars because these are hot and they will stay hot. So I'm going to go ahead and fill as many jars as can fit on this cutting board. I'm going to make sure they're even. I'm going to wipe the rims. I'm going to put clean lids and bands on. And then I'm going to get the first batch in the canner and go ahead and fill up my jars for the second batch as well. So we're going to do standard operating procedure here. We're going to get some white vinegar on a clean either dish towel or paper towel, and we're going to wipe the rims to make sure there's no little bits of salsa or sticky residue or anything like that on there, so that we get a nice tight seal between between the lid and the jar. So we're going to put these bands on finger tight, and then we're going to get them into the water bath canner, and then we will kind of clean up a little bit, keep filling up more jars, and keep it rolling. Oh yeah, when I started to add these jars to the canner, I was like, well, that is going to overflow. So I went ahead and took a little bit of water out so that I could add in the jars. When you're doing canning, you're going to want 2 inches of water covering the jars. And then we go ahead and tell it, yep, we filled the jars, and it's going to heat up, and then it's going to process for 10 minutes. We're going to get lids and bands on all of these while we wait for the first batch to process. So these are clean, new lids. I'm using up the ones I have of the Ball. There's nothing wrong with them. This is a great brand, trusted brand. I really like the 4 Jars brand better. I think they're better made. So I had to buy a few cases of a certain size of new jars, and they came with these
ball lids, so I am using them up, but I prefer my 4 jars one. But get whatever you have. I would say don't use the, if you can avoid it, try not to use the like off-brand ones. The seals, if you're gonna spend all this time, you know, peeling and dicing and making this yummy stuff, you want the seal to actually like stay. So try to use a good name brand, a trusted brand. So I've got all 8 of these ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up some of this mess, and then should be ready to go to swap these out when they're done.
Okay, so as a parent, this is one of those moments where I definitely had to take advantage of the fact that my daughter was gone and not only get some stuff done, but clean up without a little mini wonderful tornado coming through after me and making more of a mess. So I did take the time to clean everything, clean out the sink, hand wash things that weren't going to fit in the dishwasher, and just generally have things tidy and ready to go for the next batch.
Okay, canner beeped at us, so first round done. We're gonna swap these guys out. I'm gonna put these beautiful babies down here to cool, and we'll put the ones that we have ready to go in next. Gorgeous. Normally, this batch, a single batch, makes like 7 in a little so that you can like sample some with chips. This batch, since I did a double, it made exactly 15. So not a lot to sample, but that's okay because I know it tastes good. All right, we'll get this next batch in. Ooh, they're already starting to pop. That's good. That's a good noise. We'll get this next batch in. Set it for 10 minutes. Ooh, that's a canner's favorite sound. This next batch in. Get it set for 10 minutes. And then we will take these out, and I'll go out and do a little bit of gardening, maybe feed the worms. So I'll bring you back when this is all done. First, we'll set it though. So we'll reset it, tell it boiling water, 10 minutes, tell it the jar is already in, and it's gonna take care of the rest. The necks were squishy on these, so time to pull them. Lots. But the rest of them are still good, so we'll leave them in there till their necks get soft and they fall over. And that, my friend, is as easy as it is. Yay! Okay, we're gonna get these jars out. Look at that. That, my friends, we did that together. Yummy, beautiful, fresh tasting salsa all winter long. Good to go on our shelf. We love that. So I wanted to take a minute to say thank you so much for spending the day with me doing our canning of our salsa. I'm so excited to see how many of you guys try it. I hope you love the recipe. Make sure you comment below and let me know your favorite salsa canning recipe. Like I said, I hope you give this one a try, but I'd love to know your favorite one too, so we can add it to the repertoire. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you next time. What you got going on here?
So I'm getting a new habitat for our caterpillars we have right here.
What was wrong with this one?
It didn't have a zipper, and this one does. Right now it's open, but.
So what are you gonna feed them?
Kale. Can you open this?
Yes, I can open this. You're gonna feed them kale, and you got your little test tube looking things.
Take each of them out.
So you add water to them, put the plant in there so that they stay alive. Caterpillars eat them like crazy.
Crazy.
And then they grow up.
Yeah.
And what's that stuff?
I had to get new sticks so that they can make their chrysalis on them.
So you put those in here too?
Yeah.
I'll take a picture when it's all set up.
Yeah.
So our friends on YouTube can see what you're doing. And what kinds of caterpillars are these? What are they going to grow into?
Swallowtails, I think, all of them.
Black swallowtails?
Yeah, because they're starting to look like swallowtails already.
Yeah, they are.
And they're not getting away.
Does Mommy like bugs?
No.
But you do, thank goodness. Save all the caterpillars. Pretty cool, kid.
Thanks. So this is all what we have set up. So it's basic. We just got this base with all these test tubes, of kale in them, curly leaf kale.
We call them test tubes. I think there's like supposed to be feeders or something, but yeah.
And then we put a whole bunch of sticks, and we broke off some bamboo off of the things that's gonna hold it down pretty hard.
That way it doesn't blow away in the wind because this is staying outside.
Yep.
So when you have it all zipped up, you attach it to this pole that's attached to our picnic table so that it doesn't blow away. Pretty smart. Secure it with a rock, yeah. So inside here you've got some curly kale. We know they like dill, but I ate all the dill already. And they like parsley, but I didn't grow any. So, yeah, they only like the green stuff though. So we've got places for them to build chrysalises. And now we're gonna put the pillars in, caterpillars.
So I'm gonna show you step by step me putting them in. So you grab them very lightly, otherwise they smush and die like I did to one of them. Gross. And then you just put them in on a kale leaf. Keep doing that. Step by step. There might be some webs, like that guy, sticking to me. That's just what they want to build their chrysalis, but they're not going to. Because they're a little too young to build a chrysalis. Just gonna let them do their thing. Put a lot over there. That's a big, big leaf. They'll be curly at first, and then they'll go back out.
Okay, well don't squeeze them too hard.
Some of them look like they're sunburned, but they're not.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, like a lot, because I can just crawl wherever you want. Closing it. With this cage, you're gonna have to leave it kind of like in the middle-ish. There we go. Then, straps. Oh, that's perfect. We'll put it right underneath. Wrap it. Wrap it. Then
That way it doesn't blow away.
put it together, and then Whoopsies. Gotta go like that. That, and then I'll leave a little space because, oh, I don't have to. I thought I did. What am I thinking? There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Nice and secure.
Yep.
Good job, kiddo.
Thank you. This is what they're gonna look like when they're about to build their chrysalis. And then you go to the next one. This is the cage we have. Then black swallowtail.
Pretty cool.
So the caterpillars, it's just going to take 14 days for them to be their medium size, and then they'll have a chrysalis, and then they'll turn into adult butterfly. That's a monarch, but black swallowtails. My mom will put a picture up on the screen.
If I can find one, I will try.